that slide.
You need another one?
How's this?
What did you say? I just said.
Good to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Police Services Board on Wednesday, July 28th at 9:02. Before we get going, I'd like to have an introduction of two of our newest employees for West Perth. If you could just give us your name and what your official title is.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Dan Hobson, I'm the manager of legislative services / clerk here for the municipality of West Perth.
And I'm Lisa Blazevich. I'm the council services coordinator.
Very good. Thank you. And welcome.
Thank you.
Everybody's had the package for a little while. Could we have a confirmation of the agenda? Walter and June, thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Doesn't look like it. All right, that's good. don't believe we have any delegations this morning. So we'll,
Let's swear me in.
oh,
Yeah.
Well, I would do it after.
we were just gonna do it right after we confirm the minutes from the
Okay.
from the last meeting, sorry. So moving on to that, did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting, and are we good with what we have? Okay, do we have a motion to accept those? John, Paul, thank you. And,
Business rising, that's good.
right, yep. So Labitza is now our official secretary for the Police Services Board meetings, and we would like her to read the oath, if she could, please.
Yes. I, Lubitsa Blažević, having been appointed by the Lieutenant Governor in the Council as a Secretary of the Municipality of West Square Police Services Board, do solemnly promise and declare that I will be loyal to Canada and that I will uphold the Constitution of Canada. I will, to the best of my ability, discharge my duties as a member of the Municipality of West Square Police Services Board faithfully, impartially, and according to the Police Services Act, any other act, and any regulation, rule, or bylaw. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And I make the solemn promise and declaration consciously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as I made it made under oath.
Very good. Thank you very much for doing that.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yes, congrats. Correspondence. I think maybe I'll read those notes from Jeff about some of the items I asked him about. So I'd asked Jeff, our CAO Jeff Brick, about a few items. One of them being the speed sign that we had requested for purchase. It has been ordered, and believe it or not, it is on back order. So we will wait to see that. Also, I asked for a quick update on the intentions for the students crossing St. George Street from the New Henry Street Bridge area. And Jeff's notes are the crossing sign units for St. George Street are in, and they're just waiting for the hardware, I assume, to put them into place. The crossing signs will be push button activated. The sidewalk from Pond Street to St. George was installed by the developer sometime last week. The section of the sidewalk where the future Thames Street will be located is not complete. A temporary asphalt connection will be installed in the interim. This section will be poured to connect and tie in the grades. We are adding an additional crossing guard. We have the position posted. Dan, do you have anything more to say on that at all?
Just publicly, I will announce that we have the position posted and we are still looking for a crossing guard or potentially two people to timeshare a position. With the nature of this street and the traffic there, we'd be promoting one of our senior crossing guards to this area and looking to infill new hires into a more quieter residential area. So please tell your friends. We've been writing it out in the paper for 4 weeks now and using social media. So.
Good. Well, let's hope we get that filled soon, and
Yeah.
we'll be ready to go with that. Thank you. Reports.
Great,
You're up.
morning.
Good morning.
All right, so I'll start with the May report. So calls for service are almost on par with what they were in 2019. So COVID really dropped our calls for service. And as you can tell, we're back up to 357, which is on par with 2019. So just prior to COVID. Our patrol hours for May were 275 hours. We just shy of 30 hours of foot patrol. School patrol obviously we're just at 1 with the schools open and closed and whatnot. It was somewhat difficult for us to get in there when there's nobody there, right? So focus patrol hours at 5.5. ride program hours at 18. And COVID-related calls were at 7. So going to some of the initiatives, media releases, out of 34 media releases that were released, 8 actually were specific to West Perth. And those media releases were in regards to public's need to help us in solving some crimes. As you know, it's very important for the public to reach out to us with tips and hints, which goes a long way in allowing us to do a better job. Regarding collision wise, we only had 5 collisions in May, 4 property damage and 1 personal injury, which is always good to see. I don't like to see the personal injuries because that does take a big toll on everybody here, but we're definitely doing good in that regards. Impaired driving, we had a 32-year-old from Petrolia caught on Friday at 9:43 p.m. We had another 24-year-old from Brantford on Monday at 9:42 p.m. So as you a.m. As you can tell, impaired driving is all times of the day. And traditionally, the weekend is not our high time anymore. It can be the first day of the week when everyone has been off for the weekend, and then they head to work or wherever they're going, still under the influence. So that's a big piece that we're well aware of. Again, we had a stunt drive, a 17-year-old from West Perth, caught stunt driving at just after midnight. We had a provincial traffic initiative called Canada Road Safety Week, which ran from May 18th to May 24th. During that time, we issued 80 speed tickets, 5 illegal, 2 stunts, 4 seatbelt, and 2 distracted driving. That campaign is usually our big campaign of the summer, and it helps us to educate the more on public behavior out there, and we're aware that there's increased traffic volume on our highways. So that's usually our kickoff in the summer. Regarding our public education campaigns, PC Johnson, who is our school resource officer, did a virtual discussion to grades 6, 7, and 8 at the Even Maitland Remote Learning School. And she also did a segment on the ranch, which is 100.1, just to get the message out to our public. Crime Stoppers tips, we had 7 intel tips for May. Again, moving on to our training, as you can tell, training is always a big piece with us. We're constantly getting our officers trained and the data of numerous things. We did have a recent officer go through our technical traffic collision investigator program. So that position I once did myself, where they attend all the serious collisions and put together a work with us that actually what actually happened. So it's good to have somebody locally there to draw on and be a resource for us. So Ian Winans was the member that went on that, and I trusted him to do a great job. Again, no calls for service at Metro District High School. We had 6 mental health calls in West Perth. They were up slightly from the 5-year average of 2. Again, Billy Koenig is our community motivation officer. He does a great job in that role. I can't say enough about Bill. Focus patrol hours, Catterson Park was a big piece. We were very much engaged in there. Some mischief and vandalism going on at Catterson Park. So once that came to our attention, we did spend some time there, 5.5 hours from there. There was a focus patrol on 180 and line 44 that ran from May 31st to June 21st. I don't have any data on that one, but we did patrol that area and keep an eye on that stop sign, because that's again another big piece of Grand Bend, right? People think that side or that 180 borders us with Huron, right? So as you know, it's a busy road. Moving along here, trends-wise, violent crime stood at 5 from 3. Attacking pressures, again, staffing is always a pressure, and we are doing our very best to ensure the service does not see any less as a result of that.
I think it would be a perfect time just to interject it, and I may have mentioned this in the past, but currently we have 4 new recruits at detachment in Perth County, and we're expecting 5 more out of the next class. They're currently in training. So if we look at that total number of 9, that brings us, that's almost an entire platoon's worth of strength. Mind you, we have members that are retiring and moving to different positions. So we are on the positive side. We do have more members coming in and moving to other locations, but definitely a very good news story for us. So we'll have 9 members coaching those new recruits, and once they get their, what we like to call day wings, they get to go out on their own and experience policing during daylight hours as a solo member, closely monitored by their coach officer. And then shortly after that, when they get the experience, they can ride after dark as well, just part of the training process. But you'll see some new faces in and about West Perth as well.
Is there still a shortage, or are we okay?
So these numbers bring us up almost to full complement for the detachment. So like I said, with some retirements, obviously Scott Bentley and Sharon Fisher, the numbers come down a little bit, but we are doing our best to fill those spots, and that's across the board with the OPP. So we're doing very well.
And our West Virginia headquarters is very alive to the pressures that detachments are going through. And with the new recruits as well, there's a requirement for them to stay locally here for 3 years. So we are hopeful that they will establish roots here and become full-time members of the community, and we'll see those spaces on a regular basis. So that was a big piece that was new, and I think it's going to definitely help out the locations where they're posted to. So 3 years is a long time to work remotely. Like I said, I'm hopeful that they will establish roots here and start a family.
Stop the transition.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one thing that was identified was, new recruits would come in, they'd work 1 year, get to their completion of their probation, and then request to go back home, so to speak, or wherever they were living. And then obviously we train them, and then we go through the process again. So like Jason said, hopefully at 3 years they'll have developed roots, and then we'll get to keep them locally. And a lot of the ones that have been coming in lately are living close by as well. So it's Perth County has been their first choice for many of them. So we hope to see that extend well beyond the 3-year mark.
Okay, so again, community pressures, just a big piece that people don't want to vehicles. That's, I don't, you can't say that enough. The Lock and Loser program is all year round, and we're constantly getting that message here, because a lot of those simple crimes, the thefts and from the and whatnot, can all be avoided by just locking your vehicle. I know, and I'm to blame as well. Sometimes I go to bed and I forget to lock my car, but I do my very best to try. Right? So I just want to get that message out to everybody else as well. So again, we moved on to motor vehicle collisions. So for May versus last year, pretty much on par. We're up by 1. And year to date, we are down quite a bit. Year to date, 2020, we had 188. Now we're down to 124. So we do have an active traffic management program here that we've been implementing and using. So I'm hopeful some of those numbers are reflecting in that. Our efforts are definitely reflecting the numbers. So on to the icon data. I think the biggest piece here is probably the very last page when it comes to the weighted hours. Just keep going there. Look at the bottom there, last page. No, keep going. Yep. Almost to the very, should be off the very last page.
Probably the last page of the report there.
While scrolling, I'll just add if there's anything that the municipality can do to support any of these campaigns. I'm not sure if there's a process or procedure in place to really that information to our communications team, but we're happy to share that on our social medias.
I know quite often we've put messaging up on the sign at the bridge. So that helps us tremendously as well to get reminders out with regards to certain campaigns and throughout the year, honestly, with regards to speeds, seatbelt use, so on and so forth. So we'll continue to do that as well.
Great. Perfect. So again, our weighted hours totally was at 2606 versus 2256 at the same time last year. The operational hours were up a little bit, and I think those hours are reflecting people's gradually transitioning back into the community when it comes to back to work, all those things that were on hold for COVID. So I don't think those hours are huge increase, but they definitely reflect that we are opening up again and people are on the road. So, any questions for the main report?
I actually have a point, or a question, I'm sorry. Lubica, would you be able to go to 7.2, page 10? Yeah, I'm sorry. We just kind of scrolled past it. Maybe it's not page 10. Move upwards again, I'm sorry, Lubica. No, the other direction. Keep going, it's one of the financials numbers. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It's one where the total is in red and it's hard to see it on the screen, right there. Okay, so tell me how that total number, where that comes from, because it doesn't match the subtotal.
Record checks.
Not saying it's wrong, I just need to understand that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, which, is it the bottom line that you were looking for there?
Yeah, the one that,
Page 16.
the one above it.
No.
That one, the 492
Statement of fees.
statement of fees.
I'll definitely take a look at that because we have 12 record checks that are noted there. And then 7 volunteer, which are no cost, so 492. I would,
The red in total will be the year total.
the year total is at the bottom
Oh,
there,
okay,
or the year total is,
okay,
the 902 would be the year total.
okay, thanks. Sorry.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay.
Just a question, I guess, Jason, you mentioned about the focus patrol around Peterson Park. I wonder if you could comment on how that went, and what the results or the success was.
Well, I know there was, I hate to label it group, but I think a lot of youths were hanging out there. And as we know, traditionally, if they've got nothing to do, it can idle hands, right? So, my understanding from the focus patrol hours, they were successful in that. I have not heard any more issues from Peterson Park that I've been made aware of, unless the municipality or the board has. I encourage the individuals that see something to report it, because unless our members are out and about, and traditionally our cars are very well marked. So as you know, someone sees that car coming and they go the other way, or they hide behind something that we may not always see somebody there. Now we do get out and walk around and do all that good stuff as well. But my understanding is that we curbed a lot of that calls for service at Peterson Park, which that's at the end of the day, that's what we want to do, right? We want to stop the activity and the behavior. So in my understanding, we didn't charge anyone per se to catch them in the act, but us being there definitely was a deterrence from future issues there.
And
So,
there's not as many kids hanging around Jason.
right, so.
I think the big thing that's helped too, if I may add, the fact that the ballpark is now opened up a little bit, so there's always people there.
Right.
So it's not,
Absolutely, yeah.
As suspicious as what it was.
I think not out of sight, out of mind anymore. Now there's some adult presence there as well. So they don't tend to, like Jason said, idle hands, turn to mischief. And I know that the patrols have increased over there, and just like Jason said, the mere presence of one of our cruisers is a deterrent as well. So hopefully that continues on, and the kids will be, well, soon enough back to school and have other things to deal with and being at the park.
Anything else?
Anything else from
Okay.
anyone?
All right. Moving into June. Okay, so again, calls for service, I think our or COVID, again, our our numbers are up a little bit from 2019. Again, 2020 was the COVID piece, but pretty much we were all in lockdown. So regarding patrol hours, again, our patrol hours are up a little bit here, 242 versus May. Patrol hours at 24. Patrol hours at 4. Our mobilization hours at 12, which is PC Tupone. Our ride hours at 40.75. We did have some auxiliary hours. Our auxiliaries are back now with us. And assisting us in a lot of our duties there as well. So it's good to see them back. And I know a lot of them are glad to be back. So
I met with our auxiliary unit at their initial meeting back, and everybody is very happy to be back supporting the front line. And I'll note that you may have seen it in social media, but we just had another graduating class of auxiliary members for West Region, and they were on the Twitter feed and all and social media for West Regional PPA. So it's a good sign, and we're actively recruiting auxiliary members and bringing them on board. So again, like Jason said, we're very happy to have them back and supporting us.
and our COVID calls have gone down with the reopening of Ontario. Obviously, the COVID restrictions are being lessened, which then returns one of us with very calls and service. So that's good. So moving along to some of our targeted releases, 27 releases for Perth County, 7 of those were West Perth. Again, we had releases on the impaired drivers, beanies, assaults, and a stunt. The actual crime and traffic campaigns, we had 9 collisions in Perth or West Perth in June, 6 property damage, 3 personal injuries. And then we had our impaired drivers. So again, this is our members for the most part out and about and being proactive. So we had a 39-year-old from West Perth at 11:25 p.m. charged impaired driving. 22-year-old from Zora at 11:15 p.m. traffic stop there as well. And then another traffic stop involving a 23-year-old from Kitchener, all charged with impaired driving. And then finally a 33-year-old from West Perth at 1:27 p.m. So there's your middle of the afternoon person that's on a Sunday, you know, may have been drinking Saturday night, not realizing that they were impaired, and then an officer stops them, and there we go. So a lot of proactive work in our members here, showing that they are actually out there and making a difference for the community. So that's 4 less impaired drivers that could potentially have done a lot of risk to people on the highways. We had 2 stunt drivers, a 20-year-old from London on Thursday at 6:23 p.m. with 145 and 80. And then another one, a 20-year-old from Scarborough on a Wednesday at 12:06 p.m., 132 and 80. So I don't know if everyone's aware of some of the legislation regarding stunt driving. It has increased. So presently, there is a 14-day hold on a vehicle if someone is caught stunt driving versus 7 days was the old time period. And they've also reduced it down. So when we have the 50, 60, 70 kilometer zones, any speed 40 kilometers and above is considered a stunt. So I know the province is moving ahead to a stage 2 regarding stunt driving for an increased license suspension, but we haven't heard exactly when that's going to be implemented. Presently it's 7 days. I think they're looking upwards of 30 for this as well. Again, that's still, we haven't been told exactly when that's happening, but you know, with the amount of stunt drivers we're getting, you have to wonder, is everyone willing to take that risk for the consequences of it? So, and I think the province is recognizing that more and more people are, you know, I can afford losing a car for a week or losing my license for 7 days, not a big deal. So they're obviously increasing those to deal with that part of it. So again, we're doing our very best from our perspective to cut down on those individuals as well. As you can tell, we're coming from outside our community, and you know, I hate to say it, but they're like people going to the lake or visiting or whatever else, and just the lack of respect for our speeds here is not tolerated. So,
and I think the adjustments to those to that legislation is obviously a direct result and the correlation of speed versus injury when it comes to collisions. So obviously, the faster you're traveling, the likelihood of being seriously injured or killed in a collision greatly increases. And then when we have vehicles traveling at these great speeds within built-up areas, again, we are increasing. I don't know how many fold the likelihood of a collision. So this is something that can be directly, a direct result of lowering your speed would be lowering the collision rate and the injury fatality rate. So it's something we can control. And I think we are doing our best with the legislation and our members, obviously, through the enforcement. So this will continue, and hopefully we'll see a downward trend in the number of speeders at these very, very great speeds coming through West Perth and Perth County as a whole.
I think, one of the bigger impacts, and maybe Paul can comment on this, it's one thing to hit your car and pound it, and it's another thing to define the long term, it's your insurance rates, I think.
That's the aspect that people don't think about from that standpoint. If you have had a spent driving charge, then generally your current insurer will drop you and you end up in a higher risk scenario with significantly increased rates, and that sticks with you for a minimum of 3 years.
So the impacts are multifold when it comes to this offense. And obviously, hopefully the word is getting out, and it's an education piece, it's an enforcement piece, and in my opinion, at the end of the day, it's also a maturity piece. That people need to operate their vehicles in control and at the appropriate speeds. So we have racetracks, we have things like that. If that's what they're looking to do, it's not on a public road. So.
Okay, moving along, we did have another provincial safety campaign, Canada Day Week, which ran from June 26th to July 4th. In that period of time, we laid 130 speed tickets, 25 provincial tickets of other nature, 2 stunt driving, 4 seatbelts, and 5 off-road vehicle charges. The public education campaigns, again, PC Johnson, who's our school resource, is also helping with their media, is doing the spot Tuesday mornings on the ranch. Each week she tries to discuss a different topic. World Look Day, I had no idea there was such a thing, but I guess there is such a day here. Criminal record checks, updates, boat safety, dogs and cars, obviously the big piece in the summertime, people bring their animals and crack one thinking that's enough, but obviously it's not. Frauds for Seniors Month, and again, just to focus on Canada Day Safety Week. So we've also, our regional headquarters has started a podcast called Off Cuffs. Derek Rogers obviously speaks on that and did a big piece on ATV safety. So I've actually seen that podcast. It's actually pretty decent. So I encourage everybody else to tune in and have a look, see it. It's a good information piece for sure. So as well. And then Constable Johnson also went to the kindergarten at Upper Thames for the community helpers piece. Again, Crime Stoppers, we didn't have any tips for the month of June, and then our training is obviously continuous as well. Regarding school youth officer, 3 calls at the Mitchell District High School in June. Somebody sleeping in a dumpster, as well as suspicious persons.
I can speak to that one, and that was an individual that was passing through West Perth and on foot, obviously, and found that was what their shelter was going to be for the evening. It's unfortunate that people have to resort to things like that, but when our members were engaged, they refused any services and they were simply on their way. So obviously that would catch the eye of someone when we're looking at someone hanging in and around the school during the month. But yeah, we had another individual that was residing in Mitchell as well, just in the past couple of weeks, the St. David Street Bridge. So we dealt with that individual on a regular basis, and we made offers of support Unfortunately, that individual was not in a position to receive support from Stratford Housing because they were facing a ban. I like to think our continued visits and discussions with that individual led him to move on. So he, in my understanding, I was passed this morning, is not at that location anymore. So we encourage everybody if they see anything where people in these instances, and I'm not saying that there's a criminal behavior sometimes to these things, sometimes there are, but sometimes people need a hand with something, and we can tie in those resources through our mobile crisis rapid response team as well. If there's some mental health issues, we can tie in housing, all types of different resources. So hopefully we can get this person on, or these people on the right path. So I encourage everyone, if they see something that just doesn't seem right, to give us a call, and we can by all means come down and speak to those individuals and hopefully have a positive result at the end.
We have a number of homeless here in the community.
So there's probably more than we're aware of, June. And the homeless, and we look at the big picture, I'm sure there are many that are what we would consider couch surfing, going from home to home, which technically are homeless. Now, we've had 2 individuals, like we've noted in these reports, and I've just mentioned the one, that are truly without a roof over their head. So it is a situation that's ongoing. West Perth, not as great, I would say, as some other locations. I know moving west into Goderich and Huron County, there is definitely an increased presence of homelessness there, but I don't think we're immune to it. So it is active locally.
Do we have anybody living down by the railroad tracks this year? We did last year.
Back behind the tracks on the,
Down by the trail.
Yeah.
Down towards the tracks.
so I've had no reports of anybody residing in there.
And down so
No. And I know in the past they've taken up shelter in that area, but
somebody living.
yeah. There wasn't any reports, and from our officers' patrols, I've had no information, no indication to indicate that anybody's there. But again, if that is the case, then we can do a reach out to them, and obviously, if we can provide assistance in any way, be it through the mental health program or through housing, we're always there to start that process.
We'll move along here. Again, for our community mobilization officer, 2 mental health calls in West Perth for June. So we had 6 in May, which is down now to 2, which is good. Again, PC Coin does a great job with that role. Focus patrols, Gunnison Park was still part of this month. It ran from May 19th to June 19th, additional 4 hours in June, which brought the total to 9.5 for that total for Gunnison Park. Community events, and we didn't have any because of COVID-19. Moving along here. We did have some noteworthy events during a vehicle stop. Passenger was not to be in contact with the driver, subsequently was arrested, held in jail. Officer was assaulted during making the arrest by an individual. The individual was arrested and charged as well. That's some of the risks that our members take, obviously, when it comes to hands-on with people, is that if they, depending on their demeanor, and maybe some, if they're under the influence of a substance and whatnot, can cause them to react in a different way than they do normally. So our officer is okay in this case, but it is a risk of the job for sure. Regarding the trends, violent crime in Central West Perth stood at 8, off from 6 in May, and up from 5 during the same period, 2020. Our detachment pressures, again, are pretty much the same from May. We're still working on our staffing. Dave mentioned 5 recruits coming in September, mid-September. We do have some mat leaves, parental leaves, which all play a factor in retirement. So we are moving in the right direction. Stay safe a little bit of time to get there. So. And again, regarding messaging, regarding locking vehicles and just socially distance. So
I think that just from our shift briefing reports, the latest pickup truck left unlocked, keys in it, ownership, insurance, half tank of fuel, recovered in another police jurisdiction. So obviously back and forth, steal a vehicle here, drop it somewhere else, pick something else up. The enforcement part is they commit crimes in the middle, and they will commit property crimes and so on and so forth. Put your keys in your pocket, lock the door. That's all we need to do. They'll move on to the next one. If they're all locked, they're walking. It's going to prevent a lot of problems. So I know we bring it up every month. I stress it every month. I encourage people to do that. I'm of the habit that at the end of the day, before we go to bed, I double check. I make sure doors are locked. I make sure the house, the vehicles are locked, and then I can sleep soundly knowing that I don't have to worry about that stuff. So, but anyways, something again for the community, just as a reminder, please lock your vehicles, put your valuables where they belong, put them away, and help us prevent those crimes from occurring.
Okay, moving on to the motor vehicles. So as you can tell there, we're down in 2021 from 42 the year prior for the same month. And year to date, we're down as well from 230 in 2020 to 155. So again, we're doing a lot to try to keep those numbers low. So that's a good news story, in my opinion, there as well. So then we get into the icon data. We see, I don't know if you want to go to page 44 at the very end there, we'll get to the weighted hours. Actually 43, I guess, is that 31 there? I'm trying to tell from my page. Okay, got a little too far there. Is that it, the other?
That's it.
Okay, good.
Just like further to the bottom.
Yeah, just a little, there you go. So our weighted hours year to date are at 3262.1 versus 2750.8 from last year. Again, our calls of service are up, as you can tell by the operational totals there at 1238 versus 1090 from last year. And that has a lot to do with people back and moving around and doing their things. So any questions at all on the gym report?
You mentioned the charging people on ATVs or speeding. Is that on the highway or off-road or what?
Well, I would say majority of the ATV charges are equipment charges. And I did mention there's speeding in there. I don't remember if I mentioned that was included in the ATV charges here. Yeah, so obviously ATVs can only go so fast on the highway. And a lot of people, especially those side-by-sides, are 1,000 cc's and they go like a butter, right? So for our members to get out there and run the radar and catch those guys on the road, because I think for the most part, West Perth is very popular for ATVs and always has been traditionally in the past. There's been a lot of leeway here versus elsewhere to allow ATVs and off-road vehicles on the highway. So yeah, so our members again are seeing these traveling from A to B, and that trail in Goderich, what's the trail that runs along through Dave that goes all the way to 12th Goderich? That was called
G to G trail.
That's it. That's being used a lot by off-road vehicles too, right? So.
And I think what the majority of the enforcement would be the on-road enforcement. Obviously, they ATVs are set to a lower speed limit, and obviously sometimes it's an education piece when it comes to that as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think most recently there's been some amendments with legislation where we used to have to opt in, and I think as West Perth, we opted in to allow the ATVs onto the roadways. Now they're making it to an opt-out position, where if a municipality did not want them on the roadway, then they would have to opt out. And I'm quite certain I read that not too long ago, but I don't know where that sits right now with legislation. It's not going to affect obviously West Perth, but
It was Bill 107 that passed that allowed the reopening of Ontario when it comes to off-road vehicles, and now you have to designate where you don't want them versus where you do, right? So,
obviously like in our downtown core, right, we don't want the off-road machines. So, but anyways, yeah, I think you're gonna see more and more of that and the sales of those machines now. And in speaking to some of my neighbors and looking at recreational vehicles, there's a wait list to get things like that. So very popular. Obviously, COVID's done something to that where people can't travel, so they're spending their money on recreational vehicles of that nature. So,
There's people using it to drive to work.
Yes.
there are, yeah.
And the community, this whole thing.
Yeah.
There's a number of them here.
Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any other questions for the June report? Sure.
Jason, in the last number of months, the, I think Waterloo Regional has been pulled out, the school resource officer
Right.
has been pulled out of all schools. And then yesterday, they had to apologize to the school boards. I haven't heard of any negativity here. Have you heard of any?
No, so in Perth County, we are keeping our school resource officer. We do have a new superintendent that we'll be meeting with in September to go over the school resource officer role. But our high schools and the schools here in Perth County are very much on board with having the officer in the school. And Jill Johnson does a great job in that as well. So I think that goes a long way in building those relationships with the staff and showing that our purpose there is not only to, so like traditionally the role is, once the officer's in school, there must be a problem here. That's not the case. We're here to do the complete opposite. We want to build those relationships with the kids and they can trust us. And if it means
I
someone,
don't know what happened there or whatever, I just know that it's been.
I know Wellington County as well, they pulled their school resource officers from their schools as well. Again, that's at a higher level when it comes to that decision being made. But I know for Perth County, we're status quo.
Jason said it's being proactive in the schools, and it always has been here. That we can have those relationships, and I hold it back to my first 3 or 4 years in policing in Midland and Southern Georgia Bay, what's now Southern Georgia Bay Detachment. We all went to the schools and we knew the kids and you saw them every year and they're in the, and they would, I remember a group of them would always love to come over and talk because they'd like to tell you, what they're up to, what they're doing in school, how they're doing. And then you have those engagements and those positive aspects. So yeah, we're there if something is required. But just like I said in the past with just earlier with those in need, we're a resource as well. We have access to many things that we can bring to the table. So there's been no negative talk about it, and we hope to continue that in our local schools.
I think it works well. I think it works very well.
Thanks, Jason. I was curious because it has hit the news so many times and I thought, it's really weird.
A lot of the cities are doing that. They're pulling the officer from the school for whatever reason it is. Also, we don't
And it
care
could be
about
a
that.
discrimination or something, like, I don't know what it is, it's just, it's been on the news and on the news. And then when they had to apologize, I thought, that's really weird. So
I don't know the in-depth.
but I
background
haven't
of
heard
that.
anything negative
No.
here.
And there hasn't been traditionally, the principals are very much supportive of the school
Yeah.
resource officer. So,
Thank you,
any other questions for Jim? Jim, work?
thanks. Jason.
You're good?
All right. If there's no more to be said on the reports, we'll look for a motion that the West Perth Police Services Board reports for the months of May and June be accepted as presented.
Oh,
It's gotta go both ways.
Take a look at the financial reports. Oh, sorry, Walter, you're right.
yes.
Well said. We need to vote on that. All in favor of the last motion? Carried, thank you. I'm scared to blurt it out to you. Financial reports. Everybody's had this to have a look at it. Is there any comments on anything as we go through it?
I thought this was just for us to look at because we couldn't do anything about it. Isn't that what you told us?
But do you want to have a look at it though?
No, I
Okay.
want to see this.
And did you have anything to say? Okay. All right. So we've all had the financial report, and we've all had a chance to look at it. So we'll look for a motion that the West Perth Police Services Board financial accounts for the period of January 1st to June 30th, 2021 be accepted as presented. Okay, John and Paul, all those in favor? Thank you, carried. Any other business?
Can I ask Walter about that letter that he sent to the ministry, the submission? You know, for the new board, okay? Are you on there, Walter?
Well,
Well, the option 2 is what you had.
yes,
Right?
yes.
But when I look at it, and I looked at it again, and it looks like Perth East gets 2 provincial appointees.
No,
But that's what it looks like.
okay, all right, and
But
it's just the way
nothing-
that's the way they put the numbers in the columns there, but there's 2 provincial reps for
From the
Perth
3.
County.
Okay, so, was this clarified or was it sent in like that?
I didn't send it in, so I can't verify that. Dan, do you know? The guy that probably sent it in isn't here today, but,
Can you ask?
yeah,
Well,
we
because
can ask.
if somebody looks at this down the road, they're going to say, well, Perth East is the only one that gets a provincial rep. And we don't want that.
In the,
I don't think you want.
no, in the instructions
Right.
that we had that came from the province, and those are the combinations, like you could have a minimum of 5 on a committee, or a maximum, was it of 12?
Yes.
I believe that was-
And of that, the makeup, and you got the sheet there, I don't have it. If you had 5, you had 1 provincial rep, didn't you? No,
No,
you
you
had
all
3,
had,
2,
yeah.
yeah. And if you went to the option 3, which was 2 councillors each and a public member, then the numbers go up and you want 3 provincial reps. But no, it's 2 for the area. And that was stipulated in the information we got from the
Yeah.
province.
Well, that's the 20%.
Yes, yes.
Isn't that the
yes.
percentage
That's right.
that we have?
That's right.
Yeah. But I
Yeah, no, I can see what you're saying, again,
I
and
guess
the
somebody's
total,
looking at
the
that.
total is over here.
Yeah,
So if you look at this and deduct that's how you get your total.
yeah.
Yeah.
It maybe should be.
I can ask Jeff, when I see him again, like what. the
Because we're
number was.
dealing with ministry.
Yes,
I put the motion up on the board here, so it can just, you can make it out, but ultimately that each municipality here has 1 rep and 1 community rep, and the remaining 2 being provincial reps. So I don't know if this helps clarify.
Well, yeah, it's not as clear as it could be, and all I'm looking at is, down the road, this can create a problem because you've got 1 municipality without representation, right?
Would that be, sorry?
What do you mean?
Well, this is each municipality would get 2 reps, 1 from council, 1 from public.
Yeah, but provincial I'm talking. So,
okay, yeah,
there'll always be 1 with 1 less representation.
provincial.
You know what I'm saying now? Yeah, and it could create, down the road, it can create a problem, like they're gonna forget all about what happened before.
I wasn't privy to the conversation, but I take the stance right now that those provincial reps are there as provincial.
They are.
No, I know what they are, I'm not questioning what they are, I'm questioning that there'll always be a municipality with 1 less person representing the community.
But I guess you have to look, June, that municipalities are putting their 2 people for each municipality. The province appoints the provincial reps.
Yes.
And they're gonna look at the area, which is
No matter where.
basically county.
Yeah, but
Every,
like
Yeah.
Paul and John represent the community they live in as well, right?
Yeah. But I could argue that too.
Yeah.
There's nobody out from the provincial rep from Hibbert Township, you know, like we have one from Mitchell, one from Logan, one after the port and Hibbert, you know? It's how you draw the lines, you
Yeah,
know?
no, and when I was looking at this,
Yes,
and I thought, wow.
yeah.
So then I asked Jim what he saw, and he said, oh, there's 2 reps from the police, and I thought, okay, so. But I wondered how, you know.
See, Perth East
clarify.
hasn't dealt with it yet. I believe.
No,
It's the
they
12th
don't
of
know what
August.
they're getting into. But, anyway, I just thought I would ask
Yeah.
Steve because it's there, and if we need to do so, if we need to request that something be clarified, then we should be doing it.
You can ask Jeff and stuff, just to verify it. Like, that's what we meant.
Just confirm what we just said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only if you don't understand. How about that, Danny?
I think Walter's explanation is,
Yeah.
it's the clarity that we're gonna get, and just confirm that we got.
Yep, that'll be fine. Okay,
Well, no, that's okay.
any other business to discuss? Can we hear a little information about how things are at the intersections of Russelldale and Bornholm?
I was just gonna speak up about that. I didn't want the meeting to end without having a chance to do that. So, I reached out to a regional analyst, who, is able to provide us a lot of information regarding those 2 intersections. So, I'll maybe go to, Russelldale first of all. So, as you know, Sergeant Bentley and myself did a lot of work at the intersection with MTO to get some enhancements there to curb some of the collisions we were having. Now, our analysts reported 22 collisions there since 2016. I thought we'd be a little bit higher than that, but that's what he pulled off. 2 of them being fatal morbid collisions, 6 being personal injury, 14 property damage collisions at that intersection over the course of the last 5 years. So of those collisions, so maybe I'll just speak to what we've done. There's the rumble strips leading up to the intersection. You have stop ahead in large letters leading up to it. You've got the enhanced flashing red light on the stop sign. And then you've also got the signage. And what I refer to with that is there is, and I believe the county, I was talking to Chuck Blanchard on this, and he said the county was able to obtain some signage messaging for the public as to, and he's asked Jess where I put them. So I mentioned some of those locations, and I know at that location, there's a large sign, billboard style, that says, "Look twice, save a life." And there's another one that refers to obeying the provincial traffic laws. I think is the other one exactly. Both those signs do not obstruct the intersection and remind people approaching it that there is an intersection and to be mindful of those pieces. So I think that's gone a long way to curb our collisions. So for 2021, I believe we've only had 1 collision there at that intersection. Let me see here. Versus the years past, we've had a lot more. So those collisions were further broken down into causation, into charges. So failure to right away, where you basically proceed when it's not safe to do so, obviously is number 1. 11 charges were laid as all of that. The inattentive driver was 4 charges laid. Speed 2,000 conditions, it was 3. We have a couple of unknown cases where it wasn't necessarily determined as actually what actually caused the collision other than the driver error. Animal wildlife was 1, and dissipated traffic control was 1. So as you can tell, people are, I think for the most part, coming to that intersection, looking, either not looking well enough, hence the sign, "Look twice, save a life." So we identify that as a major cause there. So I don't know whether all those pieces we put in place have lowered the collisions. I'd like to think so. Again, going a little further in depth on this, so year to date for 2021, we've only had one collision at the intersection. So that's a good news story, right? Versus 2018, where we had 9. So, or 8, sorry. And then we actually further broke it down into the month. So the number of collisions, the highest month is July. We've seen 7 over that 5 years. And then I broke it down to time of day. Sunday is the time of day when we see the most collisions at intersections as well. And then we further broke it down into hours. So between 12 noon and 4 p.m. was the highest time frame for that area. So that helps us put our members in a place at the right time, right day of the week, all that good stuff, right? So I'd like to think between all those things we've done, the analytics that we have regarding this, that has something to do with the lower numbers in collisions at that intersection. Now, I can't speak to near misses. I know MTO had a camera there. I'll tell you, there was some scary footage on that camera. Did you see it?
Well, yeah, we saw it in one of the meetings.
Yes.
But, that was the comment I was gonna make, is the large amount of near misses. And I had a couple things I wanted to mention about this. And one is a personal experience on Sunday. Went down the highway and turned to go towards Exeter. And whoever it was, a chap came from Exeter, so come from the west going east, stopped at the corner, and I watched him. He looked to the left, where I was, never looked to the right at all, not at all, because I could see him. And he pulls out in front of a truck, you know? And that's why he didn't look both ways is beyond me. He just looked, and I was the closest to him, and he just pulled up to the corner, and I'm not even saying it was going to be a full stop. He just pulled up to the corner, and I was right there. He looked, and then we went. But he had no clue that there was somebody coming from the right. The other question, when we first did that, did we not have 2 flashing lights there, one on the left-hand side and one on the right at that intersection? And now the one that's on the left-hand side is not there. It's just on the right-hand side, the travel portion on the stop sign.
So it's on the east side, remember, Kenzie? If you're going north on 164, the east side has a flashing sign, correct?
There's flashing signs on both sides.
Yes.
But when you're coming from Fullerton,
Yes.
going towards Russellville, when they were initially installed, there was 2 flashing lights there, one on the stop sign, but there was one across the road, like just opposite on the other side.
On the oncoming traffic,
Yeah,
but facing
and you
you.
could see that one
Yeah.
when you were coming almost from Fullerton. You could see that ahead, and it's not there now. Whether that was MTO that's done that or what, I'm not sure, but I'm positive. Yeah, well, I know it was on the opposite side.
That's interesting because we wouldn't have recommended that they remove it
Well,
if it's that visible, right? So if they came in and made a determination that they were going to take that flashing light out, and I know that we've had difficulty with rumble bars and the noise that it creates. Sometimes it's flashing lights that people aren't happy with as well. But we have to understand that these things save lives as well.
But I do realize it was on the opposite side of the road, whether that had anything to do with it. But, the road has just a slight little bit of a turn in it. And it just lined dead on. When you were going down that road, you could see that thing,
Because it's in your line of vision
It was in your
when
line of
you
vision.
make that curve, the stop and
That's
the
right.
other light is off to your right. So
Yeah,
we can look at that definitely and see if, I agree. I think anything that's going to draw attention to that intersection to have people stop appropriately. The problem is when they get stopped and then they proceed.
Yeah.
And I know that it's basically 2 curves meeting, very slightly though, east-west, but the north-south is a curve.
Yeah.
And then you have a turning portion where you have people say going westbound, if they were traveling south and they go west. You always need to be mindful of what's behind that car, what's out of your sight line. Not unlike looking over your shoulder and knowing you have a blind spot. There is a blind spot behind a vehicle that's traveling north-south. You have to be aware of what's behind it. And I think a lot of those near misses are due to traffic volume and people not being attentive enough to know what is traveling on that roadway. Like Jason told everyone the stats, July, Sundays, noon to 4. We know those are the hours. We also know that's the time people are trying to get home.
Yes.
They want to get home from the beach. They've been there either all week or all weekend, and their mind is somewhere else. And that's the education piece where these signs that are going up, and people are reading, you know, hopefully they're reading, I think they are. But that's putting it in the back of your mind. You know what? I've got to look at this. These billboards aren't at every intersection. There's a reason that it's telling me to look twice. So, and hopefully the numbers are reflective of that in association with our enforcement and our presence there. So, but we will continuously work together and include the MTO to come to you know, what's the best possible solution for this intersection. And I know every time there's a crash there, everybody does get upset. And phones ring, and that's something that
The other thing that I have, and I advocated this at the last Cook County Council meeting, we talked a bit about signs. But in Huron County, I'm not sure it's at every intersection, but certainly at some of the problem intersections, they've gone with the LED flashing lights around the stop sign and the stop ahead sign. And the corner that I'm thinking of is, I believe is the airport line, a mile and a quarter west of Exeter there. And when you're driving down that road, you could see that thing flashing from a mile ahead, you know?
And that intersection is straight road versus straight road.
Right.
We're not talking about curve on curve. But unfortunately, there's a high traffic volume there. And again, it comes down to driver attention and driver, you know, action. And I think if flashing lights obviously are something else that we can look at, because the LEDs do produce a very bright light that's very catching to the eye.
And the thing is, it goes around the whole sign.
Exactly.
So there's just, it grabs your attention. It grabs mine anyways.
You know what, and definitely something that we can speak to, and hopefully, I don't think it would be cost prohibitive to put something like that in. It's a great idea. I think something we should follow up on. So.
I have been going to the MTO to reestablish some of those relationships again, because I know us, MTO, the county, and the municipality were all part of that intersection that came to those enhancements, right? So a lot of good work came out of that.
I was just gonna ask Jason, I know we had seen that video last year or the year before of some of the near misses and some of the things. I did notice that there was a camera at that intersection during the early portion of the summer. I wasn't sure whether we got, I'm not sure exactly how long it was there. It wasn't there as long as it was previously. It might have only been a couple weeks. Didn't know whether we had any information from that. That was probably May, June, something like earlier in the summer. It was, yep,
It was okay.
right? It was set up in May.
The remote camera stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The orange one, and it was set up,
Long weekend.
I can't speak to that, June. It might have been, but I can't say. It was a while ago. The first set of images we received from the camera a couple of years ago, and I don't exactly recall, the camera was on the east side of the road at that point. This time it was positioned just south of the intersection on the west side of the road.
Okay.
So it was just a little different angle. But as I say, and I don't travel it regularly, I just had a son that was in school in London, so I'm back and forth periodically, and noticed it was there, but not for the duration that it had been. Or something, I can't recall.
I'll definitely find out.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
if we've got any footage from that, whether there's anything that's interesting.
Well, maybe, it would be interesting if there was any data to kind of support, obviously collisions are down. that's the great news story, right? Are those near misses down as well? When you kind of I'm sure someone's gonna analyze that data, it must be there with the NPOs. So yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I think all the work that's been done there is definitely contributed to the lower collisions. Can we do more? Absolutely. And we'll just keep working on that intersection and hopefully, I know roundabout was discussed way back in the day, but MTO wasn't willing to spend the money because the data didn't reflect enough of an issue there. So that's why those enhancements were put in place. Moving along to Bornholm. So I had our analyst do the same thing. I had him analyze the intersections 164, 42, 44, and 46. See where we stand with those. So year to date at line 42, we haven't had any collisions there. Line 46, we've had one, and at line 44, we've had two for 2021. Going back for the last, I had the analyst go back to 2016 as well, cover the last 5 years. So at line 42, he only captured one collision back in 2016 at that location. 44, we had, what's that? Just shy of 20 or so at line 44. So that definitely is our priority for sure. And at line 46, we only had four for the last 5 years. So definitely line 44 is the piece there. Again, we only had two there for this year. Now, I did go to that intersection as well. I'm sure everybody here knows that there is the rumble strips leading up to that on both sides of the road on line 44, approaching 164. It has the solar powered red flashing light above the stop sign. The signage of Twice Save a Life is there as well on both sides of that road. And I had looked at the sight lines going west and east on 44 at 164. And the north sight lines are good. It's just the south side because those houses are so close to the road at the intersection on both sides. And with the shrubbery and whatnot in front of the houses, the looking south is somewhat difficult, right? So my suggestion there is we could, I know the residents of Bornholm indicate people are speeding through the little hamlet there, so we could put our speed spy sign, which is just that box that doesn't draw any attention, and then we can see the true traffic flow pattern, see whether speed is an issue on 164. It's a little harder to do on 44 because there's stop signs there, right? But if we could slow the traffic, or at least see what the traffic's at 164, that might go a long way in reducing our collisions there if the speeds are lower. You two vehicles happen to collide, less likely there's going to be a lot of slipping injury with slow speeds, right? So again, line 44 out of those three intersections is definitely a priority here. Those enhancements are in place, but year to date right now, we've only had two there. Now going back, 2020 there was 6, and then it just kind of fluctuated between 2 and 4 the previous years prior to that. So leave it with me, and we'll work on that, and hopefully we can.
Again, those numbers don't speak to the near misses,
Yes.
right? And those tend to be the calls that we get or the calls that you get with regards to that intersection. And again, every time we have a near miss, it heightens everyone's awareness that live there. All eyes are on that intersection, and then they have a heightened awareness of sounds, speeds, how fast is that car going, how fast is that truck traveling, and then obviously it's a snowball effect when it comes to your phone ringing. Again, and I've mentioned it to everyone, those calls, please, when you get them, they need to speak to us. They need to direct a phone call to the 1-888 number in a non-emergent situation, 310-1122 to our communication center. We can have an officer that's a concession away that might be in a position to look out for that vehicle. But when the information comes to us 24 or 72 hours later, no matter, that vehicle's no longer there. So I encourage everyone, if there's an issue, please call us direct, call the comm center, the 1-888 number, and we'll have an officer obviously dispatched to it and follow up with it immediately. So
It's usually splitting tires game potentially.
Exactly.
Right, so.
And again, it's an east-west road, and people, I've told officers that just as late as just a couple days ago, I said, on a weekend, and you turn on your GPS and you look at it, and it'll show you the best route to travel. I said, yeah, we're gonna have traffic on 20, we're gonna have traffic on 44, but if it's pushing people to another road to say, you know what, maybe this is a faster route, you're guaranteed that you're gonna have vehicles traveling on those roadways. And those roadways need attention. So, like Jason said, we're doing everything we can. Numbers are lower. I appreciate that. I appreciate that there's still near misses. So we'll continue to work on those and hopefully keep those numbers down. Ultimately, that's what we're looking for.
It'll be another long weekend. We have another provincial safety campaign in place as well. So we'll make sure everyone's aware of these locations and keep an eye as well on their patrols and patrols and reserves. So, and I just wanted to bring one more piece to the board. Was Jordan Crescent. I don't know if anyone heard any complaints on Jordan Crescent during your bike, but we addressed that. So
It's done.
I hope so.
I do too.
I do so. So we, yes.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Your Worship. The day that I spoke to you about that, and I went back and did some investigating, we were actually at the residence, I would say probably 3 days prior, and had some discussions with the individuals there. So our members have been directed. I've driven it myself. I parked there a little bit, just kind of observe what's going on. I think the neighbors appreciate it. I don't think we've had any complaints since.
17th of July was when we were there, and I'm not aware of anything since then.
I haven't had complaints.
Okay,
Well, that's a good sign. But again, I'd appreciate if individuals will call us directly, because when it's occurring is the time for us to attend. So.
Okay. Anything else under other business? Okay, I don't believe we have a closed session. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 22nd. And if there's nothing else, we'll look for a motion for adjournment.
It's not quite over.
All and John, thank you. All in favor? Carrie? Thanks very much.
Yes.